Much of the time when we're learning how to improve our communication, it's tempting to copy the way that other people speak. I've actually suggested this in some of my other YouTube videos where I recommend that you choose people who speak in a way that you admire and look at the phrases, the vocabulary, and the sentence structures that they use and try to incorporate that in your own communication. While this is a helpful strategy, and it's actually one that I've used myself to improve my own communication, there is a tendency to not sound like yourself. And in today's world, where many of us are striving to stand out and to be seen as individuals, it's not going to help you develop that individual style of speaking that you're probably after. So in this video, I'm sharing ways to help you find your own voice as a leader so you can develop your own unique way of communicating and stand out in the workplace. Because when you stand out, you are more memorable, and that means you can have more impact in your organization. I think one of the best ways to develop your own unique style of communication and to find your own voice is to speak from the heart, because this is where all of our true feelings and thoughts and ideas generally stem from. But many of us put up a block so that we don't speak from the heart. We hold back what we truly want to say, what we truly think, or what we truly feel. And the words that come out are generally the ones that are more socially acceptable, ones that won't offend other people, ones that will minimize the risk that other people might disagree with us. Does any of this sound familiar to you? Well, it probably should, because I'm actually guilty of this myself. I'm guilty of suppressing what my heart truly wants me to say. If you grew up in an environment where you were taught to say only things that were socially acceptable and to never say anything that was socially unacceptable, then you'll probably be able to relate to what I'm talking about here. But what I want to focus on in this video is, how do we reverse this? How can we unlearn to only say things that are socially acceptable and instead let ourselves speak from the heart, let ourselves find our own voice? How can we do that? Well, I think the first step is to recognize that you've been taught to have a filter, and in some cases a very big filter when you communicate. Because if you don't recognize this and understand this, then you'll continue communicating exactly the same way you have always been communicating, very filtered. So you need to become aware of your filter, of when you use your filter, and of what you prevent yourself from saying. Take note of this, take note of when you use the filter and of how often you use the filter, because this will give you a good idea of how much this filter is impacting your overall communication and the message that you want to get across to other people. The second thing you need to do is stop caring about what other people think. I know this is easier said than done, especially if you've trained yourself over many years to do exactly that, to care a lot and very much about what other people think of you. One thing that has helped me in some situations is to reframe my mindset around what other people think of me. And I quite often ask myself the question, which is more important? Okay, which is more important for me to communicate in a way that is filtered so I don't attract criticism, so I don't attract any disagreements from anyone? Or is it more important for me to get my message out there, for me to speak from the heart and have my thoughts and feelings and ideas heard? Which is more important to me? So think of this in a business situation. You have an idea, but you hold back from sharing that idea because you're worried about what other people think of it or think of you. You might be worried that they'll disagree with your idea. You might be worried that they'll think your idea is not a good one. Well, you're doing yourself a major disservice because you're placing what other people think as more important than your idea, as more important than your own career progression. Because when you hold back your feelings and ideas or even perspectives, you don't let others see your level of competence. And when they don't see your level of competence, you minimize your chances of being promoted and of getting the recognition that you truly deserve in the workplace. So I encourage you to apply and use this approach that I've discovered. It works for me. Use it and ask yourself which is more important the next time that you find yourself holding back from what you truly want to say. Now, I do have to put a caveat in here. If we always said exactly what we wanted, what we thought, what we felt, and to whomever we wanted, then this could potentially damage our relationships in business and also in our personal life too. You might get the reputation of being somebody who is insensitive, obnoxious, or just unempathetic to other people and the problems that they're going through. And as we know, empathy is one of the most valued soft skills in leadership today. And building good relationships with people and strong relationships with people is another area that is really important too for your leadership success. So I guess what I'm saying here is that you need to find a balance between speaking from the heart and speaking through your filter. And you need to use your leadership intelligence to know when you should speak from the heart and when it is best to use a filter to minimize what you're saying. I was recently reading a book guide on short form called The Art of Not Giving a F. Obviously, I'm not going to pronounce that word so YouTube doesn't demonetize this video, but I found this book guide to be a really good way to put into perspective the idea of what other people think. According to the author, apparently we go through life giving too many Fs. So short form, in their notes to this book guide, they recommend to use the Pareto principle. And they say that you should figure out what 20% of your thoughts, actions, and values produce 80% of the outcomes in your life, and focus your energy or your Fs on those. This book guide has convinced me to buy the actual book. So if you want to check it out on short form first, like I do, then look in the description below. That link to short form will give you 5 days free access and also 20% off the annual subscription fee. The next method that will help you to find your own voice and improve your communication is to infuse stories throughout your communication. Now, not just any story, they need to be your stories. Things you've experienced, situations you've faced, or lessons you've learned in life or in business. These are the things that make your life different to everyone else's. These are the things that will help you to stand out because it's unlikely other people would have experienced the same things you have. Therefore, they won't have the same stories to tell as you do. Now, using stories in your communication isn't a new thing. People have been doing it for a very long time, and there are many teachers and communication coaches or consultants out there who will encourage you to use stories throughout your communication and any communication opportunity that you have. But the problem is many of us can't think of stories to tell when we're communicating. We go through life when we don't realize that the situations we face or the challenges that we're up against, which seem normal to us and common to us, we don't realize that they're actually can be used as a learning point for other people, that other people probably have not experienced that exact same situation that we have. So we don't flag this in our mind and we don't see it as something that is useful or valuable to share with anyone else. So to counteract this, what I want you to do is to start recording the experiences that you've had, the situations that you've faced, and the lessons that you have learned as well. Open up whatever note-taking software you like to use. My personal preference is Obsidian. I've talked about this in some of my other YouTube videos. I really like Obsidian because it is free. I find it easy to use and it's a really great way to take individual notes, and they're also kept and stored in the one place, which really helps me because before Obsidian I was forever thinking of where did I store this note? Where did I store this note? I could never find them, but with Obsidian they are stored in the one place, which is really handy for me. Obsidian is not a sponsor of this video, by the way. I'm only talking about them because I use them and I really find the note-taking software to be very helpful for me, and maybe it will be helpful for you too. Once you have identified whatever note-taking software you want to use, then you need to get into the practice of recording your own stories or recording your own experiences. So for this, I want you to dedicate some time at the end of each day to think about the day that you've had, to reflect on the experiences that you have had during that day. Think about what happened from the moment you woke up to the moment you sat down and you began taking your notes. What did you do? Who did you meet? What conversations did you have? Did you struggle with anything during the day? Did you have an aha moment where you learned something? Did you have an impact on someone else's life that surprised you? I'm asking you all of these questions to get you thinking about the details, the finer details of things that happened during the day, because it's in those details that you will find unique and interesting stories that you can share with other people. Once you flagged a story, then I want you to write about it in your notes using this exact formula. What happened? Who was involved? What was the lesson? And the lesson part here is probably the most important, because every story should have a lesson. This is what makes fairy tales or children's stories so effective, because they help the children walk away with a value, or they learn a moral from the story. And this is why we also remember those fairy tales and those children's stories well into our adulthood, and why we also want to share them with our children when we have them. Next, you need to develop a set of go-to phrases and transitions that you use regularly in your communication, because these will become your trademark phrases and transitions that you will become known for. All successful speakers have this, and they use them, they pepper them throughout their communication, and this is what makes their communication so memorable to us. I was recently watching a TED Talk of Simon Sinek from back in 2010, and this TED Talk was called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. And one thing I noticed as he was speaking was that he repeatedly uses questions all throughout his TED Talk. He used questions. And this was clearly to get the audience thinking and to put them in a more active state of mind rather than a passive state of mind where they'd just be sitting there watching and not thinking at all. He also repeated key messages at least twice, if not more times, during his speech. And this was to really drill that key message into the audience's mind so that they could walk away with that clear key message in their mind. He also used phrases like, "This explains why," "in fact," "in other words," when he was explaining his key points. And if you go and watch that TED Talk, the link is in the description below, you'll notice that he also uses stories throughout. I found this to be a really informative and educational TED Talk to watch, so I recommend you watch it as well. The link is in the description below. For ideas on phrases, I actually have a video that will help you learn transitions to keep people interested in what you're saying. The link for that is in the description below. You can also look at speakers that you admire. I know at the beginning of this video, I said it has a tendency to make you not sound like yourself. This is true if you overdo it. But if you choose 1 to 2 phrases from one person, 1 to 2 phrases from another person, and over a number of weeks you incorporate these into your communication, you'll start to get a feeling of what vibes better with your own style of communication, what works better for you, what fits better for your own personality, and what will help you find your own voice in a more effective way. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it will help you to develop your own voice, to find your own voice and develop your own individual way of communicating. I want to thank all channel members out there for supporting me in creating these videos for my YouTube channel. If you want to become a channel member, then check out my channel membership page, watch the video, and decide if it's something you are willing to do or not. Thank you anyway for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next week in another video.